Hello, everybody. I'm Quinn Bradley. Today I'm pleased to welcome legendary singer-songwriter Peter Yarrow and his great friend, performer Emily Lawrence. Peter may be best known as a member of the legendary folk trio Peter, Paul, and Mary. Peter is also a dedicated humanitarian activist and founder of many organizations, including Operation Respect. Emily is currently enrolled at the National Conservatory of Dramatic Arts here in Washington and is a dedicated advocate for those with learning differences. Peter and Emily, welcome. Thank you for being here so much. I really appreciate it.
A pleasure to be
Pleasure. Good to see my friend again.
Good to see you.
To start off with, how did you guys meet and become friends?
Oh, we met a
I'll
long
let you
time
go.
ago.
Yeah.
My dad was working on anti-bullying legislation, and he knew Peter through all that work that he did around the Don't Laugh at Me program.
He was working with Tom Harkin at the time.
Yeah.
And Tom in the Senate was focused on the education committee. It included other elements, but he was a great hero of people who were interested in educational progress, which doesn't mean just education of the intellect, but education of the heart. And Emily's dad, John Lawrence, was a crackerjack and a great ally. And we met and bonded.
Mm-hmm. And shortly after that, we connected and through music and became friends.
And when he would sing, it's still the case, but it was, when he was younger, it was so profound. A tear would come to everybody's eye because he had such emotion in his heart that he could convey with his singing. But you'll also hear once in a while a voice where you feel the soul of the spirit of the person. And that was true. Emily, he's transitioning, but she's transitioning. That's right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is transitioning now from Elijah to Emily. And I'm still, just as the syntax changes. And I'm so proud of anybody that finds her or himself and says, here I stand. And that is what Emily is doing. So if I refer to you, because I've known you so many years, as Elijah, as you have to forgive me because
You've known me so long, yeah. And it's
That's
only
it.
been in the past couple of years.
a great thing is happening. And that is that we are beginning in a new way to respect individual identities on many levels, differences, ways of being together, loving, respecting each other, and acknowledging differences, whether it's in color or learning differences or sexual differences. And so I think that's a triumph.
What was your dyslexia like for you growing up?
What I had pretty intense memory issues, pretty intense balance and executive functioning issues. And growing up, I was always sort of, different than the other kids, and sort of to a great extent made fun of, and in public schools, but and then as I got older, I wanted to sort of start educating about myself, about my own condition, so that I could explain to people, this is my condition, and this is what it means. So that's how it was for me growing up. It was sort of, I had to get used to the fact that I was different, and it took a long time to sort of get used to it, and I'm still getting used to it.
So what was school like for you? What was the hardest part?
Oh, hardest part was probably memorization of things. Yeah. Reading comprehension was a big deal. Yep. Taking tests was a big deal. I had to have extra time on tests all the time. Limited distraction environment, and so that brought up a lot of trouble for me internally, just because I felt like the black sheep in the class, and I felt like I was different from the other kids, and I got all these sort of quote-unquote privileges, but they didn't really feel like privileges when I was separated from all these other kids, and I was looked at as different.
What was the support that you got, or did you find any support?
Yeah, Most of my support actually came from my parents and my family. And Peter was a very big source of support early on when we met. And he sort of, with the Don't Laugh at Me program, I also found a lot of support in other, the Hydrocephalus Association is a big deal these days, because, and I found a lot of support in other people with hydrocephalus and talking to them about their experience. And I found a lot of strategies for sort of helping my memory, which was a big, I found sort of like mnemonics, different strategies, like using acronyms to remember lists of things, or I used a lot of actually music to help with my memory. If I found that if I got something to memorize it musically, I would remember it much more easily. So I think, I used acronyms and I used music. And then, just a lot of extra repetition. And I find that these days especially, that's more helpful. It's just reading something and saying it out loud over and over again.
So what led you to Operation Respect?
Well, what led me to Operation Respect was when I heard the song. I heard the song because my mom was a teacher.
And what song is that?
Don't Laugh at Me, which is the song we'll be singing, written by Steve Seskin and Alan Shamblin. And I heard it and I said, this is going to be an anthem, like Blowing in the Wind or We Shall Overcome. An anthem for something that is desperately needed. And that was 20 years ago. Now we see how, what's going on with the cruelty and the sport of bullying in society and the mean-spiritedness. I started this a year before Columbine, the tragic killings at Columbine High School. And I knew it was there. It was in my heart to do, because I saw that this culture of, other than loving, caring, sharing, was growing into a black hole of empathy that you now see is staring at us in the face. And that's really, really, I think, why the Don't Laugh at Me program and Operation Respect was created, because of a song.
Why do you think Don't Laugh at Me is, when people hear the song, it seems to be very powerful and moving? Why do you think that is?
Let's ask Emily.
Emily, why do you think that is?
Especially for people like me, I'd like to think I was assertive as a child in telling people about my disability. But as assertive as you can be, there is a certain level of meanness and animosity that just gets to you. And I feel like when Don't Laugh at Me came along, I felt like here's my anthem. It's my theme song. Sort of like, this is something that I can hold on to that gives me something to tell back to people who are making me feel bad about having this condition, or how I look, or what I do. And it was sort of like almost a saving grace, because I said, I need something to tell these people, and I need something to show them that I, care about what they say, and what they say is hurting me.
So what is your advice for people who have LDs who feel like they may not fit or belong?
Simple. Believe in yourself. Belief in self can go a really long way. And I have had times when I have been very low self-esteem, and I to a certain degree still do. It's very hard to do any type of art, or do anything really, if you don't have the self-confidence and the belief in yourself to do it. I've run into many, many people who are very, very talented, but they are so self-conscious of themselves that they feel like it's a barrier for them to not to do what they love. And I would say it's especially hard for me because and other kids with LDs or just disabilities in general because they have something going against them that they've had for however long. I've had it my entire life, that they think is a predisposition for them not being able to do what they want to do, not being able to accomplish their dreams. And to a certain point, I've had to overcome that and say, no, despite my disability, I can do what I want to do, and I'm not going to let my disability define me.
Peter, do you have any advice?
Well, I have some thoughts about this because I too, as we were talking before, we all have disabilities. Even in the song "Don't Laugh at Me," is anyone perfect? You know, we all have our feet of clay, and I am also dyslexic, and still dyslexic. It's hard for me. I have to force myself to read. And but I did, of course, when it's discipline and you learn your strategies. But I am of the opinion that disabilities or differences can also be a really an extraordinary blessing in a way. It is up to us, we with disabilities, and I count myself as one, by virtue of turning that challenge into something where you have a process where you overcome and identify yourself, you become strong in very important ways. And that is I expressed in a song, and I'll tell you the lyric. It said, weave me the sunshine out of the falling rain. Weave me the hope of a new tomorrow and fill my cup again. In other words, let us take the sorrow and turn it into beauty and turn it into joy. And as we sit here, I say to people, the things that plague you, the things that are your struggles, can also become the source of your liberation of yourself and an identification of yourself, not as a person without those things, but a person who has learned to turn those things into a positive something in their lives. So I think it's not just something to get over and get through, but in my case, it's something to turn into something quite extraordinary and beautiful. Because of this pain that I saw in my life, I've been able to identify with pain of others. I don't think that if I had not been sensitized in that way, that I would have had that gift. And that gift has allowed me to create, to have the heart and the determination to create something like Operation Respect, which is this educational initiative to create caring, loving classrooms and bring children up in such a way that they accept each other and love each other and don't bully each other, etc.
Emily, what's next for you?
I'm going to finish my training program over at school, and then I'm hoping to do a lot of... I want to start doing more advocacy for the Hydrocephalus Association, and get out the word about hydrocephalus.
You know what? You haven't told Quinn or me on camera what hydrocephalus is.
Oh, okay. Should do that.
Yes.
So hydrocephalus is, it literally means water on the brain. It's a condition in which the third ventricle in the brain is short and there's a water blockage that fluid cannot drain through the brain. And so if left untreated, the water would build up and distort brain function and would be quite harmful. And so a shunt is implanted into the brain that drains the excess fluid from the brain into the stomach and creates a passageway and prevents really horrible problems after birth. I'm very lucky that I was shunted 4 days after birth. A lot of kids don't get that same treatment. Go struggle very much with their life.
Do you have any future plans 10 years from now?
10 years, wow. I hope to be acting. And I want to do, I'm looking at, obviously the activism around hydrocephalus, but also looking to be an activist in the LGBT community. I want to pursue I'm pursuing vocal music and piano. I'm hoping to sort of tie all those things together. Not sure how quite yet. But all these things I'm hoping to do, so.
How about you, Peter? What's next for you?
Well, what's next for me is always a matter of what is I find important in the environment, where there is a place to go with this kind of Pete Seeger impulse to heal where there is pain, or create something positive where there's a need for it. Right now, my passion, as well as educating kids so that they are caring and loving, and giving them an environment so that they don't buy into the hyper-materialism now, and to the greed, and to the idea of power being expressed as an ability to put somebody else in chains, and on and on. You know that kind of point of view, is to bring America together again.
What are some ways we can cultivate more compassion and empathy for others in our daily lives? For both of you.
Well, I'll answer first. If we sing together, we have to live in the moment of connection with each other. And in order to do that, if we listen, if I'm really listening to you and taking in the words and the spirit of what you're saying, we're together. And compassion and empathy and being part of each other grows. Listening.
Emily, Peter, thank you so much for this interview. I really
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm a little boy with glasses, the one they call a geek. A little girl who never smiles, 'cause I've got braces on my teeth.
And I know how it feels to cry myself to sleep.
'Cause I'm the kid on every playground, the one that's chosen last. A single teenage mother trying to overcome my past. You don't have to be my friend, but is it too much to ask?
Don't laugh at me, don't call me names, don't get your pleasure from my pain. In God's eyes, we're all the same. Someday we'll all have perfect wings. Don't laugh at me, don't laugh at me, don't laugh at me.
'Cause I'm the beggar on the corner, you've passed me on the street, and I wouldn't be out here begging if I had enough to eat. And don't think that I don't notice our
Our eyes never meet. Don't laugh and don't call me names. Don't get your pleasure from my pain. In God's eyes, we're all the same. Someday we'll all have perfect wings. Don't laugh at me. Well, I'm fat, I'm thin, I'm short,
And I'm tall,
and I'm deaf,
and I'm blind. Hey, aren't we all?
and I'm black, and I'm white, and I'm brown, and I'm Jewish, and I'm Christian, I'm Muslim, I'm Buddhist. I was born in Sarajevo, I was born in Kosovo, I was born in Northern Ireland, I was born in Africa. I'm Hutu, I'm Tutsi, I'm gay, I'm lesbian. And I am American, Indian. I'm very, very young. I'm quite aged. I was born in Iraq, in Afghanistan, born in the Sudan, in Mexico, Canada, the United States of America. I'm very wealthy. I'm very, very poor. Don't laugh at me. Don't laugh at me.
Don't call me names.
Don't get your pleasure from my pain. In God's eyes,
We're all the same. Someday we'll all have
perfect wings.
Don't laugh at me.
Don't laugh at me. Don't laugh at me. Don't laugh at me. Yeah.